All right, let's get today's program started. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Lunchtime Discovery Series. It is good to be back with you for another edition of our program, the Lunchtime Discovery Series, brought to you by the Office of Environmental Education within the Department of Environmental Quality and us here at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences within the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, which is the better of the two departments. I probably shouldn't have said that out loud. Anyway, I'm just kidding. We all work together to bring you this program every single week or almost every single week, Wednesdays at noon, where we can gather, meet interesting people who are doing really interesting work out there in the worlds of science or nature, conservation, art, or even more. Actually, today, I guess we're kind of sort of digging into the other category when it comes to what we might normally do for Lunchtime Discovery Series. But it's always exciting to learn what's going on out there in the state of North Carolina. Of course, my name is Chris Smith. I am usually your host for the Lunchtime Discovery Series. And actually, for today, I should say Happy New Year, because this is the first time that I am actually hosting the show. I want to express my gratitude and thanks to guest hosts Miranda Dowdy and Carrie Woke the last two Wednesdays, who did a fantastic job hosting the program in my absence. So many thanks to them. And thanks to all of you who tuned in for those presentations and gave them such a warm welcome. I heard the presentations were really good. So I've got to make sure that I go back and rewatch those shows and do myself some good learning based on what we've already gotten started here on the program. Today, I am excited, one, to be back, but also for today's presentation, because technically, I guess as the crow flies, we didn't travel too far in order to get today's guest speakers. I think all of their offices are just like up the street by like a block and a half from where, at least where I'm sitting here at the Museum of Natural Sciences over at the State Library of North Carolina. To get started, let me introduce the first of several speakers you'll be hearing from today. Everybody, I want you to meet Clarisa Arguello. Clarisa is the outreach librarian over at the State Library of North Carolina in the Government and Heritage Library. Clarisa, how are things going over there?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Everything's good.
Good, good. Am I right? Are y'all like it's the DNCR building just right up the street from the museum? Is that the library building?
That's the one with the colorful windows.
The colorful windows, yeah. Now, if I walk into there, does it look and feel like a giant library? Like if I typed make a library into an AI, is that what I
If you walk into our space, yes, it definitely feels like a library.
oh fantastic. Do you have
Yeah,
that delightful old book smell?
we do have that delightful old book.
Oh, okay. I might have to come spend more time over there now.
Come and hang out.
Absolutely. Well, I'll go ahead and turn the program over to you. Folks, enjoy, even though we don't have old book smell coming through your computer screens. I'm excited for this presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, and thank you to the North Carolina Museum of Sciences and to the Department of Environmental Quality for having us. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Like Chris said, my name is Clarisa Arguello. I am the outreach librarian for the State Library of North Carolina, Government and Heritage Library. And in my role, I focus on outreach and educational programming for the GHL. And during our presentation, we're going to be asking some questions for folks to see how well you know your state library fun facts. You can write your answers in the chat. So I want to share a brief history about the State Library of North Carolina before we begin our expedition into our resources. Victoria. All right. Okay. So in 1812, the General Assembly established the State Library as a collection of public documents, primarily laws and legislative journals, for use by legislators and other state government officials. So the Secretary of State was authorized to collect and maintain these publications. Does anyone know who the Secretary of State was at this time? Go ahead and put your answer in the chat. And that's a picture of the building that I was just talking to Chris about. So the State Library has always had a home in state government, but never a building of its own. We started off as a single bookcase in the Secretary of State's office in the Capitol building. And in 1831, while the Capitol building was being fireproofed, the roof caught fire and the building was burned down, ironically. And you can read a little bit more about it in the chat. I'm going to put a link in there. And so does anybody know what books were saved? The only books that were checked out. Those are the books that were saved. Does anybody know who the Secretary of State was at the time? Chris, any ideas?
Uh, Interestingly, I think I know this, but I think only because you told me once before.
Probably.
Uh, but I think you've stumped the chat.
Yes. So,
Okay,
do you
was it a
want to say
guy
it?
named Thad?
No, I
No.
wish it had been. I wish it had been.
Okay, I was wrong.
So it was William Hill. William Hill was the person. And so in 1831, after the fire, all of our books have been burned, and I have an image that was a book that was donated to the state from James Madison. James Madison wrote a letter sending us this book and telling us that this was his personal copy of John Lawson's History of Carolina. And it's replacing the one that was destroyed by the fire in the State House. And so you can see this book and the letter that was written from James Madison in our rare book room. So the State Library, we were given quarters in the rebuilt Capitol, which we occupied until 1888, and this is the picture of it. You can see this room when you take a tour of the state capitol. And so the State Library, we've moved 3 times since, and then in 1969, when this building that we're in was being built, and that's an image of it from 1967, that's when we moved into this building at 109 East Jones Street, like Chris said, about a block and a half away from the museum. And this is the building now. This was last year, 2023. In 1971, the State Library was no longer known as an independent agency. We became part of the Department of Art, Culture, and History, which is now known as the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, or DNCR, as we all call it. Chris mentioned before that it's the best department. So the State Library is made up of 4 different sections. We have our library administration, which includes our state librarian, Michelle Underhill, and our assistant state librarian, Dr. Tawana Nevels. You can learn a little bit more about them in a chat as well. And in 1958, at the request of the North Carolina Commission for the Blind, the State Library, we accepted interim responsibility for providing library services to the blind. The following year, the State Library assumed complete responsibility. And in 1961, the General Assembly authorized the State Library to enter into agreements with library agencies of other states for services to the blind. In subsequent years, the State Library has extended those additional services, and now we support those who are unable to hold or read ordinary printed materials because of physical or visual impairments. And that section is called the Accessible Books and Library Services. This is an article from the News and Observer from 1972 about this. By the 1970s, the Division of State Library was responsible for providing leadership and support for cooperative libraries and informational services on a statewide basis for all types of libraries. And this section is called the Library Development section, and it works with North Carolina libraries, serves communities, providing consultation services, supporting continuing education opportunities, and administrating grant programs and aid to public libraries. And so I work in the Government and Heritage Library, which is the last section of the State Library. And we are a hybrid library. We offer in-person and virtual library services and collections. We're that public space for the State Library. And our mission focuses on North Carolina history and culture, data and statistics. We are the principal library for state government agencies and the official repository for state government publications. So if anyone at the if anyone at the Museum of Science and Natural Sciences, get the name right, if they publish anything for the museum, we would have a copy of it. And we're also the coordinating agency for the State Data Center. We enter data requests from the public about data resources such as link and access to NC. And of course, family history and genealogy. And a lot of folks come in to learn about their own family history and genealogy. We host workshops, presentations, and other events for the State Library. And you can see all of our events on our webpage. And we have a team of research librarians here to help with any kinds of questions. We're open to the public Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m., Saturdays, 9 to 1 p.m. You can also find us through Ask a Librarian, our chat. You can call us over the phone during those same hours. We will be here. We will help you. You can book a librarian, schedule one-on-one sessions with some of our reference librarians, and you can, find all our contact information on this slide. And thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over now to Taylor, who's going to share a little bit more about the resources that the GHL has to offer. Taylor.
Okay, thank you, Clarissa. And hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Thompson, and I'm a Reference Services Assistant at the Government and Heritage Library. And my job involves helping to answer questions from people like you about our library's resources, as well as historical and genealogical questions. So today I'm here to showcase some of the hidden gems that you can find in our library's print collection, which is here at 109 East Jones Street in Raleigh. And I'm also going to show some of the online resources that we have. Our collection has a lot to offer when it comes to learning more about North Carolina, as well as scientific topics that you might be interested in. And I really think that our library has something for everyone. So without further ado, let's delve into the print collection. Of course, because we're a historical and research-focused library, you'll find an abundance of information about North Carolina's rich natural history here. We have a lot of literature about sites, parks, and natural phenomena that make up our state. Our print materials cover almost every topic under the sun. Here I've displayed some highlights from the collection, which includes everything from items about particular plants, insects, and animals to a history of the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. I've seen all sorts of interesting topics: nature writing, backpacking, a photo guide for waterfalls, and more. You'll never know what you'll find till you look. Other than traditional reference materials, you'll also find some other print materials here, like periodicals, such as historical issues of the Progressive Farmer. And we also collect biographies, such as those of prominent scientists, and a small collection of classic fiction as well. But the collection goes far beyond just books. We collect other types of materials too, like topographical maps, historical highway maps, atlases, microfilm, and vertical files. So vertical files are file folders of miscellaneous materials that our patrons have donated to us over the years, and they can be about a variety of topics, such as the one on the slide here that's about floods. If you've never used microfilm before, it's basically a miniature film reel that contains images of a larger document. And we have some copies of microfilm from the National Archives here, such as this reel on the slide from the U.S. Sanitary Commission when they inspected different camps of soldiers during wartime. Our vast collections of both state and federal documents contain all sorts of treasures. With these collections, they're often sorted by the department or the agency that created them. These topics can cover all sorts of things that the government employees work on. Some fun finds in the state documents include surveys about wildlife, such as this inventory of natural areas in Cherokee County, brochures and pamphlets from our many state parks, and newsletters from the North Carolina Aquarium and other natural destinations. We even have some past newsletters from the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, including this beautiful fold-out pamphlet from 2000 that details a timeline of the history of the museum. The federal collection is similar and can be very broad as the topics cover the United States. Some interesting things I found included soil surveys, a native foraging grasses manual, an agricultural fact book, a forest ranger handbook, and even a 1969 U.S. Army survival guide that shows you how you can build different types of shelters, identify and obtain potential food sources, and survive emergency situations. Many of these items contain beautiful color illustrations. So I know I just threw a lot at you all, and you might be wondering, wow, it's a lot of items. How could I possibly go about finding and exploring them? The good news is we have a wonderful online library catalog which details all of our items, including those in print and those that are digitally available. So to visit our library's catalog, you can visit the link that's on this slide. And here you can search for items by keyword, author, subject, and much more. There's even an advanced search feature that you can click on where there are additional fields so you can really narrow down your search. And one of my favorite features of the catalog is the shelf browser feature. So when you find something in the catalog that you're interested in, you can scroll down to the shelf browser button and click on it, and it will bring up this little grid of items. And so the item that you're looking at would be the one in the middle. And this is essentially the shelving order of the books at the library. So it's as if you were standing in front of the shelf and you're looking at it, you can see the other books that are around it. So you can move backwards and forwards to view other close by items. And you can go on your own little resource safari using the shelf browser and see what other kinds of materials you can find. And remember, not everything that we have is digitized. So there's a lot of items that are only available in print. If you're a North Carolina resident, you can apply for an SLNC Government and Heritage Library card. It's free and it's easy to do. And with this card, you'll be able to check out many of the items that we have at the library. And you can also access a lot of great online resources, which we're going to talk about next. So you can scan the QR code on the screen, or you can visit the link to fill out the online application form. And our library provides access to many online resources that relate to science. And they are accessible remotely with a Government and Heritage Library card. So on this slide, I have a listing of the databases that pertain to science. And most of them are search engines for scholarly journal articles that relate to different topics in the science field. So advanced technologies in aerospace, agricultural and environmental science, biology, earth, atmospheric and aquatic science, and even some special topics like robotic engineering, genetically modified food, energy, and global warming. They can be excellent if you're a student who's working on a research project, or if you're a scientist yourself and you need some scholarship for your work. And a fascinating database that we've recently added is the Life at Sea database, which includes historical and contemporary ship logs, memoirs, and other records about those who ventured the high seas, from merchants and researchers to pirates. Two additional resources that I want to highlight are Encypedia and Anchor. Encypedia is an online encyclopedia about North Carolina, and Anchor stands for a North Carolina History Online Resource. And that is a North Carolina history textbook that's online, and it's aimed at students grades 8 through 12, and that's hosted on the Encypedia website. Both of these resources are completely free, and they're run by staff at our library. So there's thousands of articles that you can peruse and several fun scientific facts to uncover. So you can share these resources with your children or discover something new for yourself. And you can also use them to brush up on your NC trivia knowledge. Next, Victoria is going to walk us through another great online resource, which is called the North Carolina Digital Collection, that is also freely available. And so I'm going to pass it over to Victoria. Thank you.
Sorry, Victoria. If you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Oh, I was just trying to get my setup.
Okay, great.
All right. Thanks, Taylor. And hello, I'm Victoria Haas, and I'm a digital projects librarian at the SLNC Government and Heritage Library. I am here today, as Taylor said, to highlight some fun resources available in the North Carolina digital collections. So Chris, just to double check, can you see the digital collections webpage? Correct. Okay, cool. So before we begin, let me know in the chat if you've used the North Carolina digital collections before. Do we have any avid users attending today? Any non-users? Let us know. Chris, have you used the digital collections before?
I believe that I have, or I've at least taken a browse through there before. Yes. I think
Okay.
it was looking for old newspaper clippings related to the museum and
Oh, very.
the first director, H. Brimley. Yeah.
Yes, yes. There's lots of great stuff on Brimley in the digital collections. So the North Carolina Digital Collections is a free and full-text searchable online resource that brings together content from the state archives and the State Library of North Carolina. First made available in 2007, the digital collections contains over 160,000 and growing unique and valuable resources across 63 collections. These resources include state publications, manuscripts, photographs, maps, posters, and more to support the research of North Carolina history and culture. So if you haven't used the digital collections in a while, this may all look a little bit different, and that's because it is. The digital collections was originally hosted on OCLC's Content DM platform, but in summer 2023, we moved to Adam Matthew Digital's Cortex. So along with showing resources, I will help you get acquainted or reacquainted with the digital collections. So this is the homepage that you're looking at. If you scroll down, you can see all 63 collections, and you can search a single collection by clicking on one of the thumbnails. And collections are in alphabetical order. You can also actually access the different collections by clicking on the collections tab on the menu bar here. Also, here is Browse. This will take you to all the records across the 63 collections. Using our collections, which includes tips for browsing and searching, and About, which includes information on the State Library and State Archives, along with our contact info. So now that we're all experts on the homepage, let's take a journey through some of the collections and available resources. So one of the collections I want to highlight today is the North Carolina Wildlife Magazine, or Wildlife in North Carolina Magazine. And you can find that by going to the tab and scrolling down to Wildlife in North Carolina Magazine. The Wildlife in North Carolina Magazine is the official educational publication of the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. It was first published in 1937 as an 8-page black and white pamphlet and has grown into a popular monthly magazine designed to educate the public about North Carolina's natural heritage and wildlife management. I recommend checking out the January-February issues for the annual photo contest submissions and winners. Available online are years 1937 to 2020. So before we move on to the next resource, I want to show you a few tips. So on this page, you can change the sort by either date ascending, descending, title ascending, date descending. You can choose how many records you want to view at once. You could view 12, 30, 90, or all of them, and then you can just keep on scrolling. You can also change the way how you view them. So you could have it as grid view like you see here, or you can change it to list view like this. On the left-hand side, you can filter by date. So you could do a single date or a single year, month, day, or you can do a range of years. And when you put them in, you can click apply. Or you can also search within a collection. So perhaps you wanted to search and find all issues that mention the North Carolina state bird. Does anyone know what the official North Carolina state bird is? Chris, you got any thoughts?
Oh, I do work for the state's Natural History Museum, so I think I've got this one on lock.
Okay.
I feel most compelled to see if the chat knows,
Okay.
because if there's not a soul in this great big group of people that are watching, I would fear for us. Okay, thank goodness they're all rolling in. Everybody is getting it right. Yeah, it's the
Okay.
Northern Cardinal.
Okay, well, great. So while we are looking at everybody's right answers, let's try searching. So if we search for state bird in the collection, it searches the word state and it searches the word bird. I recommend, however, using quotations for state bird. This will search the term state bird. And so before we got 854 hits, now we got 45 hits because it's searching for the phrase state bird. So another publication that I want to highlight that the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission produces are the North Carolina Wildlife Profiles. These two-page fact sheets include physical descriptions, history of the critter and its endangered status, habitats and habits, where you might find them in North Carolina, and more. I recommend checking out the profile on the whistle pig. Chris, you got any idea what the whistle pig might be? What animal?
What a whistle pig is?
Yeah.
Oh, Victoria, you are asking North Carolina's official Groundhog Day officiator about whistle pigs. Yeah, there's plenty of pictures of me on the internet standing next to Sir Walter Wally in top hat and cane. Yeah, whistle pigs are my best friends. They're
Okay.
woodchucks, aka groundhogs.
Yes. If you guess the groundhog or a woodchuck, then you are correct. Groundhogs make a high-pitched sound that is often used as a way to signal to other groundhogs that are in danger. You can learn more about the groundhog or the whistle pig in the North Carolina Wildlife Profile fact sheets. Also available in the North Carolina digital collections are the annual reports of the North Carolina Agricultural Experiment Station. North Carolina opened the nation's second agricultural experimental station in 1877. Connecticut station opened 2 years earlier. The station conducted research on various crops, as well as soil properties, insect control, and poultry science. The first test conducted involved analyzing 23 of the 29 brands of fertilizers sold in the state. Once they learned of its establishment, farmers across North Carolina began sending questions on all kinds of subjects, including directions for making vinegar, for utilizing bones, and for making home fertilizers. After the first year, additional help was hired to not only assist with experiments, but with correspondence, which increased so rapidly that half of the station director's time was taken up with answering questions. You can read more about the early history of agricultural stations in Europe, the history of the first one in North Carolina, and research conducted over the years in the annual reports. These available online are years 1879 to 1949. If you're like the farmers in the early years of the station, I recommend checking out the Extension Gardener series for guidance on yard work and keeping your gardens looking lush. Published by the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, the newsletter supports gardeners in choosing plants that will thrive in their location, minimizing the need for fertilizers, pesticides, and maintenance, while maximizing the beauty, food production, and environmental benefits of their gardens, lawns, and landscapes. Available online are years 1999 to 2020. Now, I just want to point out on the left side here, sometimes you'll see extra filters, unlike the Wildlife Magazine collection, which only had the date. Additional pages might have more filters that you can filter results by. So for example, you can change the collection, time period, place, format, language. We do have multiple items that are not in English that we do collect and are available online and hosted by, such as State Library or State Archives. Sometimes if you click on one and you choose, let's say, administrative records, it will take you to a page that has no results. So that just means that there wasn't anything with that particular search criteria that you have listed up here with administrative records. So if you prefer water over land, I suggest checking out the Coast Watch magazine. Published by the North Carolina Sea Grant College Program, the magazine brings together the latest science, captivating photography, and new insights and perspectives on North Carolina's and the greater Southeast coastal region. You might find articles on such subjects as North Carolina's blue economy, coastal landscapes, seafood, sharks, and other sea critters, hurricanes, sea level rise, and climate change. Available online are years 1974 to 2022. I recommend checking out the winter 2021 issue for the article on climate change and its impacts on the Gullah Geechee community and culture. or the winter 2017 issue for recipes of seafood stews, chowders, and soups. Another coastal periodical I want to highlight shares its name with the state shell. Chris, let's see if I can stump you on this. Can you guess what the state shell of North Carolina is?
Oh my goodness. I think the only thing that I'm unsure of is how it's actually pronounced. I read recently that I think I've been saying it wrong because I was saying Scotch bonnet and that I heard other people say Scotch bonnet, I thought. And then somewhere on the vastness of the internet, I heard Scotch bonnet. And so now I will rely on your expertise and perhaps the YouTube chat to set me straight. Of course, I also know that I could be wrong in both cases.
Well, I will also might rely on the YouTube chat because I also have been pronouncing it as Scotch bonnet. So I guess maybe YouTube, our attendees today might help us out with that. But so the Scotch bonnet, as I will pronounce it, was designated as the official state shell in 1965. Originally called the conch shell, the publication changed its name to the Scotch bonnet, What We're Hearing from the Sea, in honor of the official state shell. Fun fact, actually, North Carolina was the very first state to designate a state shell. Although the name changed, the content stayed the same. Published by the UNC Sea Grant College Program, the newsletter features an array of marine education topics, with a wide variety of resources for classroom teachers, librarians, and informal educators. You can learn more about the Scotch bonnet, and maybe it might tell us how it's pronounced in the fall 2005 issue of the newsletter. Available online are years 2005 to current. The Research Vessel Science Log collection might be of interest to climate data researchers. The collection is a collaboration between the State Library and the North Carolina Museum of Natural Science. It includes thousands of science logs from the research vessels Dan Moore, Eastward, and Cape Hatteras. The science logs from these 3 research vessels contain a wealth of climate and biodiversity data from every station that was surveyed in the Atlantic Ocean and spans the years 1968 to 2013. This is one of the few collections not OCR'd or full text searchable, and that is because of the handwritten nature of the data. However, the data has been transcribed and is available through the Duke Research Data Repository. If you're less interested in marine life and lean more towards geology, then I suggest that you check out the many geological resources available in the digital collections. This includes geological reports from the 1820s to current day geologic maps. The report on the geology of North Carolina, pictured here, includes not only descriptions of the land and the land surveyed, but the author will every now and then include the name of the landowner, which is great for those family history researchers, or include additional footnotes, such as a letter sent to the author wishing they had known about the quantity of limestone the banks of the Neuse River had to offer, because it would have saved $20,000 and, quote, at the same time, the public buildings in Raleigh and New Bern would have assumed a far more elegant appearance, end quote. I also recommend checking out the report of the North Carolina Geological Survey. Like the previous report, it includes descriptions of the land, soils, and minerals, but also includes pages of plates and figures of shells, plants, and fossils found in North Carolina, including teeth from prehistoric megatooth sharks, which is pictured here. For more current information, I suggest checking out the geologic maps available in the digital collection. So one tip and trick I want to show you here is that you might have noticed some of these metadata text in gray bubbles. These are called controlled vocabulary terms. And by clicking on these, you will be shown all records with this controlled vocab term in the metadata. This is helpful if you are looking for something on a particular subject, format, time period, creator, contributor, serial, or location. And that wraps up our expedition through the SLNC Government and Heritage Library resources. Does anybody have questions?
Well, first off, Clarissa, Taylor, Victoria, thank you very much. Exciting presentation. It was really cool to sort of take a dive into what's going on over there at the SLNC.
Thank you. Yes, we've got a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And well, at this moment, I'll encourage our viewers, if you've got questions or comments or experiences, you can drop those into the chat and queue them up for me. I'm going to be looking to you all for your thoughts and questions here in just a moment. But I'm kind of curious from y'all's perspective, what and maybe how really classifies something for entry into the Government Heritage Library. Because I mean, it seems like you could just have tremendous holdings. Like you would need a bigger building than 109 East Jones in order to hold all of the government publications that come out of the state of North Carolina, or any and all of the books that might mention things about North Carolina. So how do you go about like finding those things and deciding that they go into the library or not?
So we definitely have a lot to pick from, and we have a couple committees within the state library dedicated to what kind of items we're gonna have here. So a lot of state publications are no longer being printed. They're digital, and so we offer access to them digitally. And so a lot of our collection that we have here for state publications are some of the older stuff, which I think is really cool, right? Because you get to see that history. And so any of our new books that are not state publications are, they all follow our mission for, that has to do with the state history or state culture. We like to have a lot of items from authors that are writing about the state. What else, Taylor?
Well, we also have a lot of things that people donate to us too. So if you know of historical things or books about North Carolina or things that would fit into our collection, you're certainly welcome to contact us at the library. And we can, as Clarissa said, we have a team that reviews things to add to the collection. And a portion of them do come from people in the community. So feel free to, if you're cleaning out something, feel free to give us a call and let us know if you're interested in donating something. But yeah, we also have a big family history collection too, that is a lot of times donated to us.
Fascinating. Thanks.
Yeah.
So one of the first questions that's come into the chat for you is from Samantha, who wants to know, is there an easy way to search for NCGS, North Carolina Geologic Survey maps?
Let's see. Taylor, do you know if there is online resources for that, online database for that?
There might be. So on our online resources page, there are different resources that are kind of categorized into different categories. And one of the categories is like a geographic and map category, I believe. So there might be something in there. We have a great collection of called NC Maps that is an online collection that is from different institutions, not just, our library, but other libraries too that collect maps. And they can be on all sorts of things. I believe there might be some geologic ones in there, also kind of historical maps, highway maps. And there's some great Sanborn maps too, if you're interested in kind of like building materials and where things were over time and the history of a street. That's a great resource for that too. But yeah, there's a lot of different, the online resources we highlight today are, and the print resources, it's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to discover. So yeah, feel free to look in those links and see.
Yeah, and I also suggest just doing a search on the digital collections, just NCGS maps. That will bring up a lot of, if it's in the metadata, or like I said, everything is full text searchable. So it will pull something up that might have those terms in there.
Sounds like Samantha's got a research project to get onto. All right, the next one, Amelia wants to know if you can speak about the Literary Trails project.
Victoria?
Sure.
Yeah.
So literary trails, yeah. So there was a series of books that were published maybe 10, 12 years ago. And we wanted to revamp those. And so 2023 was the year of the trail. So we have our website. Actually, it's right on our state library website.
Yeah, I
Are you
put
gonna
it on
pull
the chat.
Okay, cool. And if you go to, oh gosh, let me library website. It's been a while since I have looked at that. So there's the North Carolina Literary Trails on the webpage, on our SLNC webpage. And if you go down, it will give you a bunch of information about the literary trails and the books. We also have a story map with all the I don't know if anybody knows about story walks or story trails, story books, or book walks. It's pretty much just they can be temporary, they can be permanent. It's usually like a page from a book, and there's usually an activity or a prompt with it, and they're placed, maybe 10, 20 feet. It really depends on distance, outside, usually around a park or on a trip, like a state park trail, maybe around a historic site. And it's just really cool, fun activity that you can do with kids, very family friendly. I do recommend checking that out. We do have a map of all the known sites in North Carolina that you can go and visit.
Cool stuff. All right, let's see here. Next one, do you do tours of the library?
Yes, we do. We love when folks contact us about coming in to see what we have. You can always email me directly, and we'll put our emails in the chat. And you can email just our general outreach email, and that's also in the chat. And so depending on what it is that what kind of research you want to do. So if you're doing family history and genealogy research, we'll have we'll talk about different resources that we have for you. We'll go through some of our books. If you're a teacher and you want to talk about the resources we have for educators, we're happy to pull all that together. We also do virtual tours, so virtual tours of our resources. So, if you have a class and you want us to talk about that with your class, we're happy to do a virtual tour so that you don't have to bring everyone in. But we love when people come visit us in person also.
Fantastic. Somebody's probably going to be getting in touch for that walkthrough soon.
Oh, I love it. Taylor and I do a lot of them, so you will recognize us, but Victoria is also, she's on hand for a lot of our tours.
Oh, fantastic. All right, next one for you. How is the SLNC related to the state archives?
Okay, well, we work really well together. We are not the same. We are both part of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. State Archives is on the second floor. We're on the first floor, but we focus on we have state publications, they have state documents. And so, we just basically, we work in conjunction. Anytime someone is doing any kind of family history research, we have indexes, and we have books on what you can actually see in the archives. But before you even get to the archives, you've got to come visit us. You're going to have to work on your research first before you can go to them and tell them, oh, this is what I'm actually looking for. Taylor, anything to add on that?
Yeah. So we are separate entities. We are located in the same building as the archives. They're just 2 floors above where our library space is. But yeah, a lot of our collections complement each other. So the archive is going to have more kind of like primary documents, while we will have more of kind of the secondary sources like published abstracts and indexes that might be about the records that are in the archives. So a lot of times people come to the library first to find out, okay, where is this document I'm looking for? Where might it be? And, you know, the abstract or index might tell you the source of that document, and then you can go or give you a call number or something so you can go to the archives and they can pull the original material for you. So we go hand in hand, and yeah, so a lot of people use both of us, but we do have separate staff from the archives. So we're the same but different in ways. But yeah, they're a completely separate entity, but we do kind of work hand in hand with them. They're kind of our sister organization.
Yeah. And we also do trivia together. So we do NC trivia with archives. Chris has done it with us. And yeah, that's always fun to do.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask if y'all were still hosting trivia on a regular basis.
Yeah, we do. We've done it about once a quarter. Our next one, I think, maybe in March, but stay tuned to our events page to find out. Yeah.
Ton of fun. There's such a cool way to get into North Carolina history and documents and fun facts and all of that great stuff. Okay, more questions for you. As a retired teacher and school librarian, Deanna writes, they've shared the North Carolina resources, but never felt that teachers and students use them as often as they could. How do you share or advertise the resources with the public?
With school libraries, and you know, we're definitely working on partnering more with the schools all around North Carolina. We have actually I'll put it here in the chat. We have a page for students and educators, and we love, you know, getting someone to message us. We try also to connect as much as possible. I've attended different conferences for the North Carolina School Library Media Association. And so, you know, the school library media coordinators know about us, and, you know, we'll do a lot of programs with them for their schools and for their teachers. And yeah, it's a lot about that. We have a lot of things based on curriculum also. So we have a lot of resources based on the curriculum for North Carolina schools. And yeah, and NCpedia, like what Taylor talked about earlier, and Anchor are just really, really great resources for educators. So yeah.
Yeah, I know I can say if I'm working on a program for the museum or content maybe for a guided tour of the museum, I'll often start my research with like the digital collections, for example, or I'll go straight to NCpedia in order to try to get to figure out what's known about I don't know, gold mining. I saw gold mining, right? Gold mining in North Carolina. That's a natural sciences sort of connection that we can make here at our museum too. And so looking through and reading the resources that are available, because it's so much more tailored to North Carolina and the history of our state and our peoples specifically than just hopping on a regular web search and trying to search for gold mining in North Carolina and then getting Wikipedia pages or maybe resources that seem real, but they're just sort of random blogs or other websites that don't necessarily have the I guess like the vetting that comes from being, you know, a government resource that's gone through lots of eyeballs in the process of becoming a resource.
Yeah, definitely.
And so those things, you know, it's like a great place to start that research and continue it as well, because there are so many resources available that you know sort of at the beginning, these are good resources that have gone through experts.
I feel like a lot of folks will do that search that you're talking about, and they will run into NCpedia, but don't realize that we are NCpedia. And so this is us telling you we are NCpedia. And it is a great place to start for your research. And another great part of NCpedia is that If you get stumped and you're on a page, we have a chat feature, and you can actually just click on that chat feature within that page in NCpedia or in Anchor, and you can just continue asking a question if you don't get your answer in that page. And anyone who works in the Government and Heritage Library here at the State Library, we are the ones who are answering those chats. It is not AI, it is us. So, we're happy to continue that conversation. So, if anyone else has any additional questions, we do get a lot of school kids that they're doing their research and they're asking their questions and they're talking to us through chat.
Mhm.
Excellent stuff. Awesome stuff. So I'm curious how somebody becomes a state librarian. Like what these jobs, like state librarians, reference librarians, digital collections librarians, what's the path into that line of work?
Into librarianship.
Librarianship. Yeah. How do you become a keeper of North Carolina's secrets?
Oh, okay. We don't keep secrets. We want to
Okay.
share them.
We share the
Yeah.
secrets.
Free
Yeah,
information.
secrets are shared. I would say we all have our own path. A lot of it, for me, comes from wanting to share that info, right? So I believe in sharing information. And so I started working in a public library when I was in college and basically never looked back. And I love doing events, and I love talking to folks about the library, and that's kind of how I've gotten into outreach. And I went to Florida State. I know there are a lot of North Carolina library folks here, but I went to Florida State for library school. And that's kind of, that was my path to getting into librarianship. Victoria Taylor.
So I didn't think I would go into librarianship, even though as I think about it, pretty sure that one of those like high school tests that you took of like, what should you be? It told me I should be a librarian, but I didn't listen to it. I wanted to work with physical collections. I wanted to be in museums and archives. And so while I was working towards my graduate degree in public history, I got a temporary job working for the Government and Heritage Library. I was at State, go Wolfpack. And I was bit by the digital preservation bug and haven't looked back since. I've been just moving forward in that. I love being able to provide access and making sure that these publications are accessible to all across North Carolina, and preserving them for long-term access. And so yeah, that was my journey.
Yeah, my journey, I will agree with Victoria. I did not originally think of becoming a librarian. I thought I was going to be a teacher. And so when I was in college, I got recommended as a student to work a student job in the archives at my college, which was located in the library. And I had never been to an archive before, and I just totally fell in love with it. And so got me interested in library work. And so, yeah, I think kind of what I do now is kind of using those teaching skills, but in a different way. And so educating people about kind of the resources we have, and helping to answer questions that people have about history and culture. And I love seeing what questions people have. I was a history major when I was a student, and so I love research just from that. And so now I get to do research every day and help people, guide them on how to do their own kinds of research. And so it's a really fun and exciting job. And, no 2 days are the same. There's never a dull moment at the state library. We always get super interesting questions. There's always something new to learn and discover. So yeah, it's a little bit about my journey, but yeah, it's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fascinating. Thanks for sharing. Those are great stories. Um, it looks like we are just about out of time. So I'm going to get the last question in. Have you ever gone just rifling through some boxes and just found something, I don't know, a treasure map, funny photos? Like what's some of the cool things that you feel like you've just stumbled upon? There's so many things, I'm sure.
Oh,
Coming
yes.
up with one off the top of your head might be difficult too, and you're welcome to say that.
I'll let someone else go first.
Um, let's see. I recently, and it's now newly available on the digital collections, but we recently digitized a maybe 10-page booklet on the role of women in civil defense. And so it was published, I believe it was the 60s, so it was very Cold War, very atomic, scariness going on. So it was like, what role can women do? And I love that the cover was like women in their really nice dresses and everything, but with like like army hats on and getting prepared to go into battle. And I thought it was just such a fun little find.
Oh yeah, that's fun. That's cool.
There's so many things. And yeah, I was kind of blanking on some, but just, sometimes you just go shelf reading in the library and, who knows what you can find. We have all sorts of really interesting publications from NASA. Um, is there a federal agency? So, yeah, we even have like a board game from NASA that Clarissa and I have taken. We took it to an event at the Museum of Natural Sciences last year. Like it was just really random, but it's something that they produce. It's a publication, so that's something in our collection too. It's a board game about space and visiting
Oh,
different
cool.
planets.
I also want to, I really like looking through some of our vertical files, and I think Taylor talked about them earlier. And it's like ephemera that folks in the past that have worked here have collected. And some of that stuff is really cool. There are brochures from the zoo before the zoo existed, basically informing people this is what we want to build. And it's just really neat to see those brochures. I've also gone through the state documents, seeing the plans for the zoo. Because this vertical file has led me to the stacks to go look at that. And yeah, it's the history, and it's the cool part of history that we look through.
That's awesome. That's fascinating stuff. I think I was going through the Brimley photo archives, the Brimley collection, looking for museum related stuff, and I found what I think might be a selfie from like the 1940s that Brimley somehow took. And I just like keep it. I haven't found a place to use it yet, but I like have it on the desktop of my computer for like one day I'm gonna need a selfie of Brimley. One of the first employee of the museum. I haven't found use for it yet, but maybe one day soon. Well, Clarissa, Victoria Taylor, thank you for being on the Lunchtime Discovery Series today. This was fun and interesting and exciting. And I definitely think a lot of people are going to be taking advantage of the resources you have.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, and we really hope so.
They're gonna come beat down the door, I think now.
Excellent. We're only a block and a half away from the museum.
Just a stone's throw. Uh, Folks, viewers, thanks for tuning in to today's edition of the show. Glad you were here. We will see you again next Wednesday at noon for another Lunchtime Discovery series. Make sure that you head to eenorthcarolina.org where you can sign up to get the email newsletter for this program. That way you get the link to participate in your inbox every single Wednesday. And I hope that I'll see you again here soon. Again, thanks to today's guest speakers and to the museum's digital media team and the Office of Environmental Education for their help organizing and coordinating. Until next time, everybody, be safe, be kind, be well. We'll see you again soon. Bye.